We're very pleased to offer tonight's coffee conversation and books presentation. This is part of our series that we do with our neighboring libraries, Shelburne and Grand Valley. We have representatives from both libraries here tonight. Thank you very much. And we do this on a seasonal basis. So Wayne is the first of 2022. And we're so excited to have Wayne Sumbler here. So before we get started in our questions, Wayne, just a little bit of background for those who might not be familiar with Wayne Sumbler. Wayne was born in a small town, Welland, Ontario, in 1956. He was a longtime resident of Erin, Ontario, and more recently, a resident of Orangeville. His first exposure to rock and roll started with watching the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show. His first guitar was an acoustic one, and then a gifted Kent electric guitar, which I understand is right behind him, from his parents. And he learned some of his first songs on that guitar. Once he got into his mid to late teens, that is when classic rock became a big part of his life, and Led Zeppelin became his first love. Wayne has played in several bands that covered versions of various rock hits, probably some of the ones we just listened to, I'm sure. And Wayne's love for cooking stems from an Italian mother and a career in cooking for various restaurants, as well as inspiration from travel across the globe. So Sex, Drugs, and Pots and Pans is Wayne's first ever book, and we are so pleased to have him here this evening to tell us more about how he went about taking this book from an idea to publication. With that, Wayne, my first question for you is, quite literally, start at the beginning. Where did you come up with the title? Where does Sex, Drugs, and Pots and Pans come from, Wayne?
So a friend of mine actually plays in a band they're in Hamilton. Actually, it's called Rise Again, which is sort of strange because it's dope. But anyway, they were actually playing one night, and we actually went to go see the band. That was sort of like their unpaid roadie kind of stuff. It was like 2 in the morning. We got out of there and got home, got to his place, and I woke up really early in the morning because I do every morning. And I went out to the store and I picked up, the Rockstar drink, right? And I've never had one before, right? And like, and I was all hyped up and whoa. And so I started cooking like crazy, right? And he come downstairs and he says, "What are you doing?" He says, "You're cooking like for 8 people. There's only 4 of us here." I says, "Well, that's just the Rockstar drink, right?" So he says, "You know what? You should really write a book about that." And so I said, "This sounds like an idea." So I started thinking of, I don't know. I thought, well, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, right? And he didn't like the term at first, and then he thought, you know what? It's really catchy tune, right? And so that's how the name came up. And so, that was also my inspiration as well, but I can talk about that later. But that's how it all got started. So, yeah.
Very good. So you had the title before you even had the book.
Yeah, literally. Yeah.
Right. So we're talking about your inspirations, and obviously that is cooking and a love for rock and roll music. Can you speak to your lifetime of love towards those two things?
Well, my mother being Italian, the cooking part, so that's my genetics actually is Italian. So, and I played in different bands as you mentioned already, and I really just somehow I had to mash both together, and I started looking online and are there any books like that out there? And there's not. I mean, there's one, Sex, Drugs, and Pots, and something like that, but more drug-related kind of books. And I never saw anything out there like that. So, I started playing around with it, and then I started looking up bands from A to Z that actually have either food in the song title or food in the name, in the band name. And I started going through all that, and this sort of looks interesting, kind of stuff. So, and basically that's how I started to do it. And then it just sort of developed even further. And then I started getting very creative with a lot of lyrics, because I had to actually look up the lyrics of the songs and how can I turn that into a food-related thing. So yeah, with the lyrics and even the chapters, and of course, I'm also a huge Rush fan too. So they're in one of my chapters, and I got 3 recipes so, for Rush. So hopefully
Very
that
good. So, excellent. So it sounds like your process was a bit of 2 things. Sometimes maybe it was influenced by song lyrics, and then other times was it influenced by the recipes. So did you have a certain recipe and then you thought, oh, I need to work this into the book somehow? What song
Yeah.
goes
Yeah.
with it?
Yeah, literally. So,
Okay.
yeah, and that's how I sort of worked. And I made the stuff my own. And I thought, you know what, this is going to look really cool in it. So, and,
Right.
and it's funny because at the start of the book, I didn't put as many with lyrics. But as I got further along with it, I actually started messing around with the lyrics a lot. So for example, I got from Queen, I got We the Champions, stuffed portobello mushrooms, and like, and then I play around with the lyrics to make it sort of food related in a way. So, which I can do. So,
Very good. Yes, it sounds like you're quite a talented chef. I haven't read your book cover to cover, but I did flip through and saw some pretty eye-catching recipes in there. I guess we'll start with, do you have a favorite recipe that's in there, Wayne?
um, I would say my deep purple eggplant. That'd be my first. My second one would be my up and smoked lobster, because you got to put a shout out to Cheech and Chong, especially Tommy Chong is Canadian, right? So, and I would say, and they're easy, like, I mean, they're all good. I mean, yeah, they're all good, but those would be my 2 favorites. Actually, would be the deep purple one, and yeah.
Very, very good. And those are the favorite recipes. What's your favorite song that you integrated into the book? And do you have a favorite song that you thought, oh, I need to make a recipe for this, or this needs to be in there in some way?
Boy, that's a hard one. I'm trying to think right now. I mean, I love AC/DC. I really do. So, but I love anything, especially anything off Live Aid. Literally, I would have to say the Queen recipe.
The Queen recipe.
Yeah. So that's one where I knew, because I was looking at the lyrics. I thought, I literally got to come up with a meal for this. So
Right.
I would, yeah, that'd be the We're the Champions. So
Very fun. So you mentioned that, all the recipes are good, of course. Are they approachable? Can anyone pick this up that maybe isn't a foodie or maybe doesn't cook? Are you encouraging those that don't cook to be inspired to cook through music?
well, you know what? They're actually quite simple. Most of the recipes, and some of my friends actually have used the book. They've actually made some. In fact, when Meatloaf passed away, actually, I put a picture of my book in there, and they actually followed the recipe to the T, and they said it turned out awesome. And they said, actually, and someone else did the deep purple eggplant, and they said, you know what? It's actually a lot more simple than you think it is, right? So there's a couple might be a little bit more difficult, especially when you're making your own dough or your own pastry stuff, but most of them are actually fairly simple. So
very nice. So no one needs to be afraid about the technical pieces in it.
No. And I've got things like, like in the book, actually, it breaks it down into, the different measurements, right? So yeah, so especially for the UK, because it's mostly UK and they've got different measurements there. So and then it's broken out fairly easy. So
right.
And if you don't want to follow the measurements, you can always do pinch this, pinch that, right? So
yeah, that's how I cook.
I do that sometimes too. So.
Very nice. So that's kind of the cooking side of it, the technical side of it, and then let's maybe talk about the writing side of it. Have you always been a writer, Wayne? I mean, if you're a musician, I assume you dabble with songwriting. So how did your love of writing come about and come to a cookbook?
maybe when I was about 17 or 18, I think. I did do poetry. I have written a number of songs. In fact, there's a couple of songs. One song I wrote, actually, I played it at my wife and I's wedding. Actually played the guitar, and she was sitting there on the floor in her, her wedding dress. And yeah, I've been writing for quite a while. I have to get into it a lot more. But I actually just recently wrote another one. Actually, it's not what you call it, more classic rock, more like a blues kind of stuff. And yeah, and I was, really good in English in high school. So where it sort of started. I have to do a little bit more writing probably, but it's okay. It's gonna come.
So you weren't completely unfamiliar with writing, but I'm sure you learned quite a bit in the publishing process, especially with the cookbook, because I imagine there's a lot more technical editing that needs to go into that. So can you maybe speak a little bit, Wayne, to your publishing process? I know that looks different for every single author, since there's, the self-publishing route and then the traditional routes, but what did that look like for you?
The hardest thing is in the editing process. And it was, like, I mean, in the British, they spell words maybe a little bit different way in Canadian terms, especially with the names of the songs, and they're saying, well, that doesn't matter. So yeah, I did go through issues with that, and I had to learn a lot more patience because I'm not a very patient person. That's the Italian background in me. Yeah, you really have to learn to be patient with it and give it time. And I mean, from concept to when it came out November 30th, probably took me, I would say, about 3 years. The editing process, probably about maybe 2 years, a year and a half to 2 years, because there were a lot of changes. Because I had done it originally in Microsoft Word and all that kind of stuff. So. Would I say that it's harder than a regular book? Yeah, definitely, because you got photographs in there. You got to make sure the legal stuff. You're even putting links into the bands. Okay, which of course the publisher, I do not own YouTube, so, and I do give them a shout out, like Vivo and stuff like that. So I had to check with a lawyer. And she said that was fine. The legal stuff wasn't an issue, at all. But yeah, it's a really long process. I started on my second one, but hopefully shorter this time. So, I mean, I've already started because I've got my first chapter is going to be called For Ladies Only. The second chapter is going to be called Canada A. And it's going to feature all Canadian bands and stuff like that. So I already do have some recipes. Some friends have already sent me some ideas. And that's another thing too. I do have friends send ideas, and actually the ones that did that I actually used in the book, they got a free version of the book. So
very nice.
Yeah.
Neat. Yeah, it sounds like there's a lot of added layers then to producing a cookbook because of those images and because of the technical pieces, especially when you're then adding in songs. So it sounds like you really had to do your homework with the whole copyright pieces and making sure that you were covering those bases.
Well, plus the photographs, because I had photographs of food, and of course it wasn't good for a book. So pixels or whatever. So actually I sent it off to f-stop, and they put it into something that can be used in a book. And so and that took some time on that too. So because and then I finally went and got myself a proper camera, and then I started taking my own pictures. So
right.
A proper camera, not just a cell phone. But yeah, and they did a wonderful job. They also got a book as well. So
but there's no bigger form of flattery than a free book. That's what we say at the library. So it sounds like that was kind of the first hurdle that you had to go through, was just, several hurdles. You had to write the book, but then you had to figure out the editing and publishing process. And now you're on that last leg of the journey, which you're learning, which is more the marketing piece and getting the book out there. Can you speak to that piece a bit, Wayne, and what that looks like for you as a local author?
I don't have any problem with marketing at all. I mean, I used to do health and safety, and if you got to market anything, it was health and safety, right? So, and you got to keep things fun and stuff like that. So, I really probably should have been a marketer or other instead of a health and safety person or a trainer or whatever. So, and yes, I talk a lot. Sometimes I'm told that probably shouldn't talk as much as I do, but that's what you got to do. But no, I'm fairly good at marketing. I mean, I got a hold of Abbey Road Studios. I got a hold of Rolling Stone magazine. I got a hold of various newspapers, Orangeville and the Banner being one as well, and that kind of stuff. And I've gotten a hold of CBC. I'm still waiting to hear back on that because I know they want to do a radio, one of their groups or whatever it is, CBC Food something. But anyway, and yeah, and you know, and that's what I do. So I don't have any problem with marketing at all.
Very good. And I guess we've been living through this global pandemic for a few years now, Wayne, but 2 years to be exact, and that's a lot of the chunk of time that you were working within. Did the pandemic impact that process for you in any way?
No.
No?
No. I'm retired. Yeah, other than my wife had to work from home for a long time, so so I had to be very quiet on stuff. But no, it didn't impact at all, to be honest with you. So
good, very good. My next question, Wayne, then is, what's next for Wayne Sumbler? Do you have future plans for books? I think you mentioned a couple projects that you're working on. Can you share more with us on those?
okay, so I'm actually, like I mentioned, I'm actually creating a second book, which I'm working on right now, and it's going to be called Sex, Drugs, and Pots and Paws, for ladies only, because my dog, of course, you know, I have him in the scooter. I actually have a Stella, original Vespa scooter, which my wife's name is Stella, and my dog drives in the sidecar, and he's got a helmet and goggles on. He's got a bunch of different vests that I have for him, and from Rockstar Puppy. So, and I thought, well, you know what? You just can't hit the rock lovers and the cooks and the chef and stuff. Like you really got to hit the animal lovers. And I thought so, and I think the one picture you had in there. So I'm actually going to be. He's actually going to be on the cover of my next cookbook, and yeah, so it's really fun, and you know, I'm working on the various things, and yeah, there he is. That's Austin. His name is Austin after Austin Matthews. So actually, his middle name is Bauer. We call him Austin Bowers. But so, and yeah, so he's actually going to be on the cover of my next book, and you can dress that dog in anything. And on the other side, I'm working on a children's book, which is going to be called Austin, the Sidecar Dog Who Saves Christmas. And you know, I've got about half the poem already written up already, and I think it's going to do really well, because I mean, like I said earlier, my rock stars will die out at some point, but kids are always born every day. And I'm hoping it'll be up for Christmas. I have a really awesome illustrator. Her name is Melissa Alliston, and she's got him with that fluffy tail. I said, he doesn't have a fluffy tail; he's got stubby. So I had sent a bunch of pictures, and he actually loves riding the scooter. That was my saving grace during the pandemic when my wife was working at home, because we used to go riding all the time, and he just loved it. I can do 75 kilometers an hour in that thing, and he just absolutely loves it, you know. So, so that'll be my next book, and then from there, who knows where I'm thinking. Austin the Sidecar Dog, Under the Sea, maybe into space at some point. I'm not too sure yet.
A whole series, and I'm sure your travel across the globe could influence that as well.
Actually, it will, because I envision him, you know, going over Big Ben and the pyramids and stuff like that. So, and that will probably be within the one that I hope to maybe get out for Christmas. So, yeah. There's enough there. I could keep him going for a long time. So.
Very fun. And how, may I ask, Wayne, how did you start riding around with Austin in your scooter? How did that come about?
Well, okay, so my wife was actually born in Britain, which was strange because we were in the UK, and she actually grew up in Acton. Okay, I had been looking for this scooter for what 3 years now, couldn't find anything, and I happened to call. I'm even trying to remember the name of the place, but anyway, it was a motorcycle place in Acton, and he says, "Well, don't have one for sale. My boss has one. It's like a 2016 model, 2016, not 2014. It only had like 170 kilometers on it, and it was funny because when we were in the UK just recently. My son lives in Northolt, and we passed East Acton, West Acton, North Acton, so not that Acton, right? So, and he said, "Yeah, I do have a Stella, right?" And I'm sitting there, "You actually have a Stella?" And I says, "What color is it?" He says, "Well, it's red, like candy apple red." It's done deal because it's the same color as the car. So we got it, and I thought, I'm gonna take Austin for a ride. And so I took him around the court the first time. I took him, just really slowly around the court, and he just loved it. He just, he's sitting there and he's looking around. He's checking both, left and right and behind him. I said, geez, he's actually checking blind spots better than I do. I really don't need mirrors with him, right? So, and then we started getting a little bit faster in it. And when I finally got my license, my wife, I took my wife in it, and she got in it with him, and she sat in the sidecar, and he was sitting on top of her, and we started doing like 40 kilometers an hour, and then 50, and then she said, "Well, let's go down Hockey Valley Road." I says, "Well, that's like 70, 80 kilometers an hour." Just go for it. So, yeah, we went to Barrie and back, and yeah. Wow. And yeah, I've driven up to Alliston actually, and I've had him by myself, and like all over, and he absolutely loves going in there. And he and it's funny because when she was working, he actually barks, and as soon as I put my vest on, it's like, "Okay, Daddy, let's go for a ride," So yeah. And the only time he kicks off, he wants his goggles off, so when we stop. When we ride, he keeps that and the helmet on. So yeah.
Very cool. Well, he looks very stylish while he rides.
Even more so. Now I've got a couple other things for him. So.
Well, I look forward to you incorporating Austin into your next books, Wayne. That sounds like exciting stuff to come from you. I think that concludes all my questions for you this evening, Wayne, but it looks like we do have at least one question in the chat, and I'm going to open the floor now for anyone else in our chat this evening to ask questions with Wayne. So the first one is from Joanne, and she asks, "Did anyone try making your recipes to test them before you put them in the book?" That's a great question, Joanne. So did you have some beta testing, Wayne?
Yeah, it's called my wife and my dog, because he actually eats almost everything. So yeah, no, I did. My wife was my guinea pig. So yeah, and she says she'll eat everything except the only thing she won't eat is deep purple eggplant, because she doesn't like eggplant. I says, "Well, yeah, but the center of it's like a big meatball kind of stuff." She said, "No, you still have eggplant in it." So it's the only thing that she will not eat out of my book.
I can sympathize with that, actually, Wayne. I eat virtually anything, but eggplant is not.
Oh, you got to try it.
I'd be willing to try it. It does sound delicious. Do we have any other questions coming in yet? Here's one from Pearl. Will there be an opportunity for a book signing, or can we purchase autographed copies? Great question, Pearl.
Well, first you can get autographed copies over at Booklore. I think there's about 15 left. I do have a few more left. So originally I bought 240, and then I'm going to let the big boys handle it from then on. hopefully the library is going to be having a book signing at some point once all this stuff is over, and I'll be doing a book signing there as well. But for the moment, right now, you can actually get them in Booklore. Or you can drop the bar on Broadway, because I am going to be doing some more book signings there too. So,
Perfect.
To be honest with you, their chef there, Andrea, she actually bought my book. So she said she's going to probably feature a few of my recipes at the bar. So.
Lovely. It's perfect for any chef, that's for sure. Yeah. Joanne has her hand up here. Do you want to unmute yourself, Joanne?
Hi, Wayne. I was actually asking in my original question, not for taste testing, whether you actually gave the recipe to someone to try to make, so that, you know, people buying your book, you knew it was, you know, had enough detail or in it.
Well, I did send people that bought my book. They've actually made it. In fact, there was a bunch of them made online, and they actually showed me the pictures, and they said they actually followed the recipe straight out, and they said it was absolutely awesome. And I know there was quite a bunch that did the meatloaf recipe, and also the deep purple eggplant. Actually, I think even the guy from what was it? Austin McCauley, actually, he did my he loves chicken, so I think there's one where I crewed him with chips or tortilla chips or whatever. So and they said, yeah, they actually they posted pictures of it. So I posted pictures on Facebook as well. So yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Thank you, Wayne. I would be willing to test a recipe in the future. just to let you know, I do like to cook, so. And I would love a song to cook too. Yeah. Our next question is from Paul here in the chat. It is, does your dog like Brussels sprouts?
I don't like Brussels sprouts. They're not in my recipe book, okay? My wife hates Brussels sprouts, so no, that's he may eat it. I mean, well, he can be picky. He doesn't really like carrots that much. So he does eat, you know, summer foods. I mean, we give him healthy food, but sometimes he doesn't really get the healthiest food. So, but he's got a thing about carrots. He will literally pick out every carrot or out of it. So, but Brussels sprouts, no, not gonna be in my book.
Isn't that funny? I think it might depend on how you cook them, though.
No. I got
no.
My wife's parents used to make them, and she can't stand them, and I can't stand them. So.
Paul says neither do my dog or wife, so you're not alone there. So our next question is from Diane, and she's asking, what was your favorite part of the book writing process? Great question, Diane.
Playing around with the lyrics and trying to make them into, you know, like with food kind of stuff, right? So that I had a lot of fun with that. That was actually the most fun I've ever had writing anything. It's even easier than writing a song. And it was just, you know, taking lyrics and like, okay, how can I change these to have them relate to food? So I really had fun. In fact, a buddy of mine and I say, what do you think? He says, oh, that sounds great. You know, so, and that was Carl, the guy that helped me with the idea for the book. So yeah, that was fun. That was really fun.
Very cool. It sounds like a fun puzzle, actually.
Yeah.
Very nice. Do we have any other questions coming in? Sorry, just looking at my chat here. Wayne? Nothing yet in the chat. Feel free to raise your hand in the icons as well, everyone, if you'd like to chat or share anything with Wayne. Darla has her hand up.
Get everything all unmuted and closed off. Wayne, so are you going to open a restaurant? What do you, are you just a...
No. I don't need to work anymore. I've worked in restaurants before. No. I'll, you know, that's too much. That's not fun. What I'm doing is fun. So, I know my son wanted me to. He says, Dad, I want to come back home when I retire, and we can start a restaurant. I says, you know, by the time you retire, that's going to be 20 years down the road. So, and I won't be cooking in a wheelchair. So,
Never say never.
if I'm still around that long, never know.
So not a restaurant or a bar, because I mean it really lends itself to that,
Yeah.
bar.
Yeah, I know. No. Although I did offer to offered bar in Broadway. Says if you need a couple days off or something, I'll go in and I'll make some stuff for you. In fact, we went to what was it called again? Oh, geez, I can't remember now. They have the autistic people that have theater. Little people's theater. Famous people
Just
players.
in town?
Yeah.
That's it.
No, famous people players in Toronto.
Oh, okay.
And they said we'd actually like to have you come in as a celebrity chef at some point. So I would love that, and just make simple stuff, right? But because we went actually last year and they were just absolutely awesome. I've never seen anything like it. So I said, well, maybe my picture will end up on your wall at some point. But if I do anything, it would be for the fun of it, not for the work. So I have enough work to keep me busy right now.
Fair enough. So you've made
Terrific.
officially the career change from chef to author.
Yeah. 2 children's book writer. That'd be the next one.
Go. Great question, Darla. Thank you. And I think for what it's worth, Wayne, it would make an excellent evening out, like a gala event where you cook for one evening and you promote the book or something. That'd be fun.
Oh yeah. And that's one thing I'm sort of looking at. So
Yeah. Very good. So we've got a few more questions and comments here in the chat. Diane's asking, will you use the same publisher for your children's book? Ooh, that's a good question, Diane.
Probably not, because they're not really as big into children's books. I was thinking of Orca books. Now the thing is, with a children's book, a lot of the children's book publishers, they have their own illustrators. So I'm trying to find somebody where I can use my own illustrator. So it won't take long to write it up. I mean, I can probably have that done by next week as far as writing it up. It's just the illustration, and that's going to take some work because I had to take pictures of Austin from every angle and different outfits on. Like I've got the reindeer ears on them, and you've got a elf costume on and stuff like that. So again, that's where I don't think I'd be using Austin Macaulay for that. Now I know if it goes into second publishing of my next book, they do have first right of refusal. But if there's something better where somebody's going to give me a $10,000 signing bonus, well, I got to look at that. So, but, yeah.
So still in the preliminary stages there with the publisher.
Yeah.
It's interesting though. You're right. The difference is when you add elements like an illustrator into the mix. How it changes the dynamics a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So a comment here from Pearl. High praise to the library banner in the Hills for promoting local talent. Thank you, Pearl. We do try to get the word out about all of our local authors. The next question here is from Melissa. I'm drawing Austin during this interview. When's your US book tour?
Hey, Melissa. she's fabulous. And I'm going to be keeping her busy for a while because with 3 or 4 books, my U.S. tour, I don't know yet. I'm still waiting to get on Rolling Stone magazine at the moment. So, but anyway, yeah.
Very funny. Darla says, Wayne, the celebrity chef and up-and-coming best-selling author, thank you so much. Wonderful evening. She's needing to sign off because her internet's breaking up, but thank you. Diane's just laughing at Melissa here in the comments. And Melissa says, hi, Daniel. Hi, Wayne. Busy is good. No doubt. Very good. Oh, hi, Diane. Sorry, not Daniel.
You should actually see Melissa's work. She does some wonderful, wonderful pictures. But she keeps doing cats all the time, which of course that Diane probably just loves her for. And says, "What about the dogs?" Yes. So,
So we've got a few local author illustrators here in our room this evening, which is lovely. And Diane says maybe Austin will need a sidekick. There you go. Maybe Diane and you need to co-write something together, Wayne.
Yeah, but Diane does murder mysteries. Well, yeah, I could work with that. I can do a murder mystery with Austin being like Sherlock Holmes kind of stuff. I don't know.
Might not be a children's book, but
Oh no, not necessarily. No.
Very good. Okay, so any other questions coming our way? I encourage anyone that just wants to chat, you can unmute yourselves now. You can turn on your video if you'd like. Welcome to have more of a conversation. We have stopped our recording, so thank you everyone for coming here tonight to listen to Wayne and